Right, journalism is poorer today following the death of one of its finest and most dedicated veterans, Jeremy Gordin. Police have confirmed he was found dead in his home in Parkview after a robbery, quote, gone wrong. It's understood two robbers held him up and stabbed him in his house, and they took his car and television set. He was, of course, a former associate editor of the Sunday Independent, a former editor of the Daily Sun. He was an author, 2 investigative journalism books, The Infernal Tower and A Long Night's Damage. And of course, he also published a biography of Jacob Zuma called Zuma, a biography, that in 2010. He was also a poet of note. Joining us to reflect on his contribution to journalism is, of course, Reggie Mwalusi, who's the executive director of SANEF, the South African National Editors Forum. Reggie, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. This must have been news that was very, very hard for you to receive.
Good morning, Bongani. Good morning to your listeners. Indeed, very hard to receive. We are still gutted. I'm in disbelief. We worked together with Jeremy for a number of years at the Daily Sun and Media 24. He left, but we still kept contact. And it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that we have, someone like him who was peacefully at his own house. Yet he is another state. He becomes another state of violent crime in South Africa. We have lost a veteran editor and journalist. He was one of our own. And we dearly loved him, and we loved his writing.
And, he wasn't just a good journalist. I think he wrote because he cared, and he took an active interest in the lives of the people whose stories he told. He was all about social justice, wasn't he?
He was. Social justice was one of his biggest ever pet project. I mean, if you look at the work he did at the Justice Project when he started at First University, you look at the cases and the kind of work he did and the people he helped, particularly those who were incarcerated, unfairly so. He helped those people. He went out and he was always the kind of guy who said, this is more than journalism. It's about changing people's lives. So if you're a journalist, you go out there, ask yourself, what contribution can I make? How can I change this person's life? And how can I make South Africa a better South Africa? We all know what's happening in this country. We all know the failings of the current governing party. And he always says, write truthfully about it. If ever you are close to power, do question power. Do question them that they can do better for this country.
I mean, you talk about his active involvement. I traveled with him to the Free State to tell the story of Fusi Mufokeng and Tshukulo Mokoena, of course, as you know, who were imprisoned under apartheid laws. And he, of course, played a huge part in their release. I mean, that was a perfect example of the kind of social justice advocate that he was. What have we lost in Jeremy, Reggie?
We have lost a tower. We have lost a maverick. We have lost someone who still had so much to offer to journalism. We have lost a mentor. We have lost, someone that gave his all to journalism. I mean, you speak to his wife, Deborah, she'll tell you that Jeremy did it all for journalism. He contributed. He went beyond, the call of duty. We are poorer with him not being around. I mean, you speak to other friends throughout yesterday, you look at the tweets of the likes of Michelle Merkut, where she says, as Jonathan Paul, they were ready to publish his next book. And these are the kind of things that we kept on talking to him about. I kept on saying to him, I'm sure there can be a follow-up to your book about Zuma. And then he was always saying to me, look, it was a biography, it was unauthorized, but if you're going to critique it as Reggie, how would you critique it? And I always said to him, I thought you were lenient to him, actually, much as it's unauthorized, so you can come up with a better follow-up book. We used to joke around like that, but we lost the maverick, we lost the tower, we lost a guy who was huge. He was short, he was also short-tempered, as Vincent Pinard writes. And but he had a great sense of humor as well. He would say to you, Reggie, let's get to work. And then afterwards, he'll say to you, okay, we are now being social, let's make jokes. And he was that kind of a guy. You know?
He was, wasn't he? Reggie, I appreciate your time. Yeah. Indeed, we've lost a repository of knowledge and memory. And of course, our thoughts and condolences to his wife, Deborah, their 2 children, Jake and Nina.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions,
your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.